Good morning and welcome to Job Order Contracting Huddle number 27, Job Proposal Internal Audits. Today is February 16th, 2024, and let's take a quick look at our agenda. So some brief announcements, housekeeping things. We're going to go over the new regional JOC hazmat and paving contracts. We're going to talk about, very excited, the increase of the minor cap limit. Department of Finance has come out with a letter, and the limit's much higher now. We're going to talk about the new Gordian rate and the new Gordian account manager. Wink, wink. Somebody here, right, Cynthia? And we'll talk about the JOC program analysis. We're going to have an open discussion, and then we'll talk about training. So without further ado, let's take a look at. Oh, I forgot to mention. Don't forget the JOC Center of Excellence. You can just Google it. They've got a brand new website. So it's a National Job Order Contracting Association. Think of it kind of like a CMAA, but specifically for JOC. So not only does Southern California have a strong chapter, Northern California has a strong chapter as well. If you want to get more involved, please reach out to me, as I am now a national board member. Lucky me. Yet another thing that takes up my time, but please reach out and let me know if you want to be more involved in the JOC Center of Excellence. So we got some new general regional contracts. We have new hazmat and new paving contracts. As you can see, Park is back. They're not only back in the north, they're in the south as well. We've got Quality Environmental in the south, and it didn't make the page, but because they just came in. West Coast Environmental is a new JOC hazmat up in the north. Also have new JOC paving contracts. Agronaut Constructors in the north, NBS Engineering, Axiom Group, and Horizons in the south. Carly, if you don't mind throwing in the link to all of our new contracts, you guys can actually click on them and use them. But yeah, the new hazmat and paving are ready for use. So there is a new minor cap limit. So per the Department of Finance budget letter 2404 and CPDC bulletin 24005, the current maximum value for a minor cap project is, drumroll everybody, $1.1 million. That's crazy to think that you can go up to that high for a JOC project. But I do want to warn everybody to use that. Oh, I left a zero out. Sorry, everybody. But you guys get the idea. I do want to caution you to make sure that your JOC contractor is capable of doing a project that's $1 million. Don't forget, our average JOC project is what, about 25 to 50,000, Cynthia? Is that about right?
Yep.
So 1.1 million, that's a lot of money. So make sure that if you're going to do that you use caution. And at that point, you're having plans. Those plans are permitted. You have a JOC contractor that you can trust with that size of project. But it is available for your use. If you've got any questions on that, don't hesitate to ask me. I can let you in on some more information about that. And without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Gordian with some exciting announcements. Cynthia, why don't you let them know who our new rep is?
Oh, thank you. Don't oversell me either. Good morning. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Cynthia Orozco. I am with Gordian. And as Jeremy kind of implied, yes, I guess there is a new Gordian rep, but no, you guys already know that person, and that's me. Moving forward, I will be overseeing the JOC program system-wide. So lucky you guys, you're stuck with me for a while longer. Also, as an announcement, guys, you guys did meet the threshold for the new increase or the new decrease now in billing rate that became effective February 14th. So happy Valentine's Day to you all. The contract that we have with you guys says that anywhere between, if you guys meet the volume mark of 85 million to 100 million from February 14th to February 14th fiscally for this past year, you guys would now move down to a new Gordian rate of 2.33%. And I just got the final count. You guys finished off at 86,228,900 and
Oh,
$3.50. So you guys, you just scooched right on in there. So that's going to be your new Gordian billing rate effective February 14th. So anything that NTP'd after February 14th, you will see at that 2.33% moving forward.
86 million?
86 million. That's crazy, right?
Wow. I feel like it should be like one of these numbers, 86 million. So 86 million is a great number. And congratulations on your promotion, Cynthia. I've been working with you for almost 5 years. Oh my gosh, it feels like it's longer, but almost 5 years. And I appreciate all your hard work and congratulations on the promotion. And you've been a great partner at the CSU, and you're really a part of the CSU family. So kind of what Cynthia was saying, you know, we're up at $86 million now. So with great power comes great responsibility. So in that, we really do need to talk about this JOC program analysis. So it's a JOC program with an internal audit system. So Cynthia, let's kind of get rolling on this. This is really to protect everybody and to protect the JOC program and keep us honest, right? Keep us honest to the general conditions. Keep us honest to the program that Gordian Cloud provides with CTC line items, detailed scope of work. So we're going to be touching upon all that in the next few slides.
Absolutely. As a part of that, though, we will be developing out what we call a red flag alert. Now, this isn't meant to pick on anyone, but this is just in case there are those instances where situations have arisen and either the contractor, the project manager, someone on campus doesn't know quite how to report it. Maybe you're reporting it on someone above you, somebody who works alongside of you. So we're going to have an anonymous hotline available to you guys via Smartsheet, where you guys can report those kinds of situations where, hey, this seems like it's touching a little too much of the gray, and we may want to revisit the general conditions with this specific individual or specific group, but I don't want any backlash. So it's completely anonymous. And that's just to alleviate the pressure off of any possible backlash that you may feel, but still, again, trying to commit to the best practices that are within your contract.
So Cynthia, little announcement here. Carly and I were burning the midnight oil, and we actually already created a form.
Look at you guys go. That's awesome.
We already created the form. So Carly, if you could actually put that form link in the chat. Hold on to this again. So not only can you report if somebody on your campus is doing something questionable and you're questioning it yourself, but you can also report on the contractor too, because it's important to know what contractors are playing by the rules as well when we're considering pre-qualification and bringing some of these JOC contractors back. We want to know preemptively kind of what's going on in the first place. So Carly, if you wouldn't mind throwing that link in the chat, folks can start using that as soon as today.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for that. So a couple of key items that we're going to be looking through in the review. Now, these are all based on items within our general conditions, keep in mind, as well as flags that have been raised in external audits that we've seen across the state of California. So these were the biggest key points that we saw in doing an analysis of external audits from other areas in California, as well as in reviewing your general conditions, things that are a core part of your contract. So number one, looking out for contractors' low adjustment factor. Number two, the excessive use of non-pre-price line items. We always say non-pre-price is meant to be the exception and not the rule. So that's something that we'll be reviewing within these spot checks of jobs. Number three, no or a vague detailed scope of work. That's a huge one, right? We want to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success as well as your contractors for success. So that'll be a key item that we're looking at, as well as a training schedule. Do you have a training schedule for your internal parties? And actually, as a part of your general conditions, the contractors are required to do Gordian-led training before they're issued out a job order. So we're just going to double check that. We're also going to be checking for projects improperly passed through the JOC program. Some JOC jobs are great for the program, others not so much, right? So that's what we're just going to be looking out for. Lack of JOC order documentation. Document everything as much as possible. And as well as the milestone date tracking. Is that something that's currently being utilized to the full extent? What about pricing negotiations, right? When we're reviewing our price proposals, it should be in synchronization with what the detailed scope of work is rather than meeting a budget number. As well as, do you guys have a campus written procedure of process flow for your work? And again, these are all items that we found based on external audits as well as best practices. So don't feel like, oh, dang it, I don't have all of these right now. That's what we're here to help you get up to speed with. And that's what we're checking for these items. What are the areas that we could improve upon so that way we can focus on those things for the year? And of course, the use of contractor evaluations. Now, that's something new that may not be necessarily used at every campus. And we understand that. But again, how do we get your team up to speed to be able to be using all of the tools in your tool belt effectively?
Right. And that contractor evaluation, again, to reiterate, when we're thinking pre-qualification at the chancellor's office, that those are items that we want to see. We want to see when a contractor's knocking out of the park or when they're striking out. So it's important and we'll advance a few more slides and you'll be able to see that tab. But it's important to really to grade your contractor and let us know what they're doing at your campus.
Absolutely. So going back to our list here, the first topic at hand is low adjustment factors. We've all dealt with maybe an adjustment factor that was way too low. Ultimately, it will always lead to arguments in the proposal review if we're seeing unsupportable tasks or exaggerated quantities. So that's why this is one of those items that we're going to be keeping an eye out for, as well as leading to delays in the work order development. And feel free to pipe in if you guys have experienced that with low factors as you guys have been working through JOC jobs. What we're trying to do is alleviate that adversarial relationship with your contractors if they do have a low factor. Maybe we need to go out to bid another time because there is no limit on the amount of times that you can bid out JOC contracts. Maybe we need to bid out another contract so that contractors can try again at a higher factor, right? Because there is no second chance for them to improve on their margins within the contract year. What we want to make sure is, again, we're setting them up for success. So what do we need to do to get them up to speed? Maybe they need another round of training to know how to further develop out their adjustment factors, right? But again, this is one of those items that we'll be reviewing. Secondly, non-pre-priced items. Again, these are meant to be the exception and not the rule. So this is definitely something that we're going to be seeing and looking into within price proposals. Now, keep in mind, we're probably going to be looking at, Jeremy, we had mentioned 2 campuses a month. Is that correct? Does that sound about right?
Yeah, we're going to do 2 campuses a month.
And it'll be a random job within those campuses. And this is one of those key items that we'll be looking for. Is the entire job just non-pre-priced, or are we using it for material only and then placing the labor and equipment items out of the book? And keeping in mind also that did the contractor submit those 3 quotes that they were supposed to on their vendor's letterhead or provide a justification? Again, your contractors do get a markup of 15% on non-pre-priced line items. So we want to make sure that they're properly documenting all of the steps that they took in order to get to that line item if they were able to use it. So the big one is the detailed scope of work, right? That is going to probably be one of the biggest focuses that we're looking at, is making sure that all of your jobs have a detailed scope of work. This is what ultimately does lead to success in the job if you are taking out the time to develop a scope of work. And we do have really great examples of detailed scopes of work. So if for whatever reason we say, hey, we noticed that on a couple of your jobs there wasn't a scope of work, this is the opportunity for us to set up training with you guys and really showcase this is how we were able to collaborate with the contractor and build out a scope of work. Because a lot of the times, even if you don't have all of the details, once you do your joint scope meeting, your contractor is going to bring their sub, who may be the expert in the field, and they can help you finalize out that scope of work. But it is a very, very important step, because this is the prime opportunity for you as the campus and the contractor to really dissect out the project into the smaller details. And ultimately, both you and your contractor need to be in agreement with the scope of work.
So I think a lot of you have heard my analogy about the detailed scope of work. And I mean, plans and specifications, very important for a job to really get into the specifics of it. But to me, the detailed scope of work in the Gordian cloud very important. Like the best example is like chocolate chip cookies. Like if you want like Ghirardelli chocolate in your chocolate chip cookies, put down I want Ghirardelli chocolate, or you're not going to get it. You're gonna get the chocolate chips that they use in Chips Ahoy, which is fine, but you're not going to get what you want.
Exactly.
Cynthia and I have been in a bunch of these projects, and sometimes, in some occasions, we've seen campuses using the brief scope of work. Now, that brief scope of work should really only be like a sentence. That's not the detailed scope of work. Detailed scope of work should literally have a paragraph kind of introducing the project and several bullet points, again, with the right type of milk, the right type of sugar. I mean, like everything you can possibly think of. And even down at the bottom, Cynthia, the line that you created for the detailed scope of work that mentions that if the above isn't completed, we're going to do a supplemental to get the money back for this. So
yeah. And I think we talk about it a little bit more in the next slides here as well, because this is such a core part of this analysis. But again, the detailed scope of work is a legally binding document for the work order. So keep that in mind. The way I always think about it is your brief scope of work, you're explaining it to procurement. You're giving them a high level gist of what it is that you guys are trying to accomplish with the job so that they understand what they're signing off on a purchase order for. The detailed scope of work is where you're talking to your contractor and explaining everything that needs to be done on the job site. So that's why there's a different level of detail within it. We always want to make sure that we're referencing any information, such as like plans, drawings, any pictures that you may want to have on there. And keep in mind, though, that when your proposal is approved and an NTP is issued, the proposal becomes a lump sum amount. And then it's the scope of work that indicates the work that's going to be included in the construction phase. So this is why it's so important to have a detailed scope of work. I don't know what other word to call for it.
I mean, it is that exactly that you want to be very specific in this.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think this is where you spend the most amount of your time.
Yeah,
really putting your project together.
Yeah, absolutely. So the overall goals for this, if you guys are going to start to go back and review your jobs in light of the upcoming analysis, a couple of goals to keep in mind. You should accurately detail the work that the contractor will perform. Ideally, it'll help you get a cleaner proposal and get all the notes for all of the items. But it should answer the following questions. What work is the contractor going to perform? How much is the contractor going to perform versus how much maybe you as the campus have your in-house staff doing the demo and then the contractor is going to come in for the install, or vice versa. Where is it going to be performed, as well as the details of the work. So the type of equipment or material, any specific manufacturer and model numbers that need to be included. And if there are any architect drawings or specifications, you'll need to note any exceptions or clarifications. But again, if you feel like there's any jobs that aren't quite up to par, always feel free to reach out to your Gordian account manager and we can help you get there as well. So don't feel like you're on your own trying to go back and figure out what your scopes of work are on your jobs. We're here to help you through that process. Going down to the next item, a training schedule. So do you have a regular training cadence with your Gordian account manager? We always recommend at least doing an annual training with them. Biannual works great. I know some campuses have set up JOC office hours, which are fantastic. So do you have some sort of regular cadence with your account manager just to make sure you're receiving all of the newest information about the system? There's updates that happen to Gordian Cloud all the time. There are also updates to the general conditions that happen on an annual basis. So keep in mind, though, if you guys do have consultant project managers, they are also required to do training, either self-paced or with your Gordian account manager. Keep in mind, this is a contractual requirement of your contractor as well. The general conditions do state that your contractors are required to do a Gordian-led training before they're issued out any jobs. So did that happen? And if not, let's get on the calendar with them just to make sure they're not in breach of their contract. Keep in mind, there is self-paced training available online. Jeremy and myself go around and do a deep dive with the campuses, which I think has been very effective. But it's basically a half-day training where we go through and we workshop everything together. And of course, you guys have these JOC huddles available to you as a resource. But training is always an integral part of any successful program. So making sure that you guys are in accordance with that is something that we're going to be reviewing as well.
So to kind of piggyback on the training, we also have all of our JOC huddles in CSU Learn sum total. I think everybody here has access to it. If not, all the JOC huddles are also on the CPDC YouTube page, which I will share in the chat as well.
Things that we're going to be looking out for again are these JOCable projects. So the big thing to remember is the 3 R's: repair, renovation, repetitive work.
Yep.
The general rule of thumb is no new construction, right, guys? No new construction through JOC. But are these projects going to fall in accordance with one of these 7 key points? Is it a remodeling job, a repair work, renovation work, replacement in kind, or maintenance work, alterations? Was it a time-sensitive project that came up, right? Because there was no hot water in a building. These are the kinds of things that we're looking out for. Was it a design? Should it have been probably bid out? Those are the things that we're going to spot check for to make sure they were in accordance with.
So another thing that's, and I love this term, JOCable projects. You'll really want to consider that JOC contractor. So when you initiate the proposal and you're calling around, or maybe you call me, or maybe you call Cynthia or your Gordian rep, and you're like, what contractor would be best to do this project? So you bring the contractor out and you're walking them around, and the contractor looks lost. That's a problem, right? That, like, where their head's spinning and they don't quite understand what you're kind of laying out. Like, you know, maybe this isn't the right fit. Maybe that JOC contractor is better just to paint the room, right? Or maybe for a different type of contract. So again, kind of coming back to that, you know, I know the minor cap is 1.1 million, but can your JOC contractor that you've chosen really complete a project like that?
So job order documentation. Do all of your jobs have the proper documentation to make sure that you're creating an audit trail for yourself, essentially? The job order checklist is something that we highly recommend because it ensures that you're including all of the proper forms within your job order package. And within that should be your request for proposal, your detailed scope of work, your price proposal, your subcontractor listing, your job order authorization, as well as your DBE and SBE adherence, and of course, your notice to proceed. All of your jobs require this. So keep that in mind. We're going to be double checking that all of these things are downloaded in the system. We may reach out to you and ask if you have all of these documents. But just so you know, there is a space in Gordian Cloud for you guys to upload these documents, which makes it super easy for you guys to track and to store all of your signed documents. So, and that's in the issue job orders phase, job order documents. So that's available there to you guys as well. Milestone tracking. This is a big one that we see. Keep in mind.
My favorite one, though. This one's great. It's so easy to use.
It really is, guys. If you fill it out within one of the steps in the system, it goes back and auto-populates in the milestone track. Which, if you remember in the Gordian days, that was not the case. So this is
you had to go back, save, go back, save, go back. But this, if you have a joint scope meeting, it actually initiates it. So
absolutely. So are you guys using your plan dates versus your actual dates, or are we just using our plan dates? Those are the big things that we see. Sometimes we'll see all of the plan dates filled out, right? Which is fantastic, but then there's no actual. So we don't know if this project actually happened, or did we just forget to jot down those dates that happened? So number one, it does track. Oh, go ahead.
So Cynthia, just to let everybody know, so for example, like identification date up here, you guys can see this. It says complete. The first date field, that is the planned, correct?
Correct.
And then the second is the completed, right? So
correct.
Just to give you an idea, the one that's farthest out is actually the completion date. So.
Correct. Yep. So ideally, you guys should be planning out your project, right? And when it executes, you're just going back and double checking that date was entered in there. It does keep track of the key timeline indicators on the job, right? But also it is used in management reports that you guys can use for your weekly project manager meetings, just to see where your projects are at. And they auto-populate onto all of your forms. So those forms that we just covered in the last slides, all of those will auto-populate the milestone dates on there for you if you're filling those out within this page. And not only that, but just so that you guys know, on a quarterly basis, these dates are used on a system-wide level so that we can accurately detail the overall health of the program. So what we do is we'll pull KPIs for the chancellor's office, and we'll say, hey, it's taking significantly longer to review proposals system-wide. And this is how it's doing in NorCal versus SoCal. And we'll dissect out that information for the chancellor's office. But it gives us a really clear idea of what the health of how the program is doing as a whole. Now, what we have to do now is double check, is it taking a long time because we're doing larger projects, or is it that we're not filling out our milestones on a campus or job by job basis? So having those filled out on every single job helps on multiple levels, both on an individual job order level and on a grander scheme as a system wide, just to see how you guys are doing as a whole.
So Cynthia, Paige is my representative, and she hassles me all the time. She's like, Jeremy, you didn't fill this out. You didn't do this. And I'm like, Paige, I know it's my system. I know, but it's important to really cross all the T's and dot the I's in this. So
Yeah.
an accurate timeline, because, years will pass and somebody comes back to this project and you want to see the flow. You want to see how long it takes, because sometimes it's the contractor's fault, right? It's not the campus's fault. Sometimes it's some other, maybe it's like a procurement time, or school's in session and we can't get to a janitor's closet because there's too many people there. So it's important as a timeline for history's sake. Think of your future self wanting to know how the flow went.
Yeah, it's an audit trail. That's what it is. It's an audit trail. Yeah. And just so you guys know, you guys are going to start to hear from your Gordian account managers, because that's one of the exercises that we're going through on our end to prepare you for this, is going back and double checking the milestones and checking for these kinds of items and doing some data hygiene just to make sure you guys are set up for success here. Now, the big one also, price proposal accuracy. A couple of things that we'll be looking out for within those price proposals is, did we use labor hours when they were not required? Do we have tasks for costs that were included in the contractor's adjustment factor? Are we selecting items from the CTC because it's closest in price rather than closest in description? What about rental equipment items? Were they already inclusive of the tasks? So is it a double dip maybe? And are they selecting more elaborate, higher priced items when it's not called for in the detailed scope of work? Did they use a breakout of line items versus using the assembly, which is a more cost-effective way of doing it? And pricing at the most inefficient and most expensive means and methods, right? CSU is not going to pay for inefficiency in accordance with the general conditions. The big one, inflating quantities. Is it in a scope of work? Or sometimes it's honestly just a common mistake, is misreading the measurements in the CTC. You'll think it's linear feet and it's cubic yards, or it says each, and you think it's by linear footage. So that's a big one that we do see, and it's just a common clerical mistake. So we're going to double check for those kinds of items too. And of course, the double dipping, misreading of modifiers, were they utilized when they could have been utilized, whether they're additive or deductive, right? We're trying to be fair to the contractor here, but it goes both ways. And again, including extra quantities for waste, and because everything has to be in accordance with what the detailed scope says. There's no rounding up on it. So making sure that it's in alignment with that, and including extra quantities for the minimum amount the contractor has to purchase, again, and to be in accordance with what the scope of work says.
So really quick, Cynthia, on number 9, I have seen that before, where contractors get confused about square footage versus square yards. Fun cheat code on this: just Google like conversion tables, because you can actually go to Google and find like a converter that if it's in square footage, you can change it to square yards if you don't want to do the math. They do almost all of them. Additionally, all of this information, right? Isn't this all in the big note? It looks,
Yes.
yeah.
It's on the 6th page, the last page of the big note. And actually, I don't know if you knew this one or not, Jeremy, but that conversion table calculator is actually within the price proposal module. So when you open the catalog at the very bottom left-hand corner, you'll see that there's a conversion table and you can enter in all your quantities and it'll convert it every which way under the sun for you.
See, guys, see, that's why you guys get paid the big bucks. Gordian.
I know. So pricing negotiations, just don't do it, guys. That's all there is to it. Don't do it. Make sure that you guys are reviewing your proposal in accordance with the scope of work. The dollars usually line up. And if they don't, most likely is because maybe we need to revisit the budget. So we need to make sure that when we're reviewing proposals, it's in line with what the detailed scope of work is saying, rather than what the bottom dollar is saying. Okay, so that's a big one that we'll be looking out for. Okay, and a written process flow on each of your campuses. I think everybody by now has seen the standard flow chart. This is best practices for system-wide, like Cal State as a whole. So always feel free to use this as your ground base, but what is the actual procedure? Who are the points of contact on your campus specifically that paperwork goes through? What are the channels? Maybe it's a specific role, maybe it's a specific person, but what is your procedure on your individual campus level? We want to use this as a best practices, yes, but who are the key points of contact within each of the steps? What is going on each of the jobs? So that again, if an external audit was to ever arise, you guys are prepared with that, because that is one of the most common things that gets asked. Do you guys have a written process flow? And is it up to date with who's within the role, right? So we want to set you guys up for success. So this is one of those things that we'll be looking out for. And if it's not developed, again, always feel free to reach out to Gordian and account manager, because we can send you a copy of this to start to develop this out for you guys, and this can be your foundation for it. And lastly, of course, your contractor evaluations. If you do not see this within the system, let us know, because it's something that we just switch on. Everybody should have access to this already. But again, if you don't, feel free to reach out to your account manager and we'll get you access to this. But this is where you're going to give an analysis of how your contractor performed at. This is fantastic. Because we're going to start to develop out grading rubrics and reports on how the contractor's overall doing on a campus level, on a system-wide level moving forward. So doing your part on a job-by-job basis is really going to help come together with that. Maybe there's a really great contractor that nobody knows about because they're a new guy and they haven't done work, but they happen to be in a very concentrated area like Los Angeles, right? Other campuses can now would be able to access that information and say, we need to ask this contractor to come out to bid. And the same is vice versa. Do we have a contractor who's could use some extra training, is what I'll say. So this will be a great way of indicating that this is a contractor that we need to spend some more time with and do some more training with.
So just as a sample, so this is I think almost everybody's in this room has been to the chancellor's office, into the Dumpke. So the Dumpke auditorium, I mean, that's where the board of trustees meets. That's where the lieutenant governor comes. Big deal, big room. So we had a leak last December, and it was actually a very successful job. Like, the price was kind of high, but Xbond came out immediately, did great work. But to me, they still got a 77. I mean, the work was completed, but like I said, there were some issues that they had. Now, will they be disqualified? No, but will I talk to them about this project? Absolutely. So it's really important that all campuses, and I think, Cynthia, all campuses can access this now, right?
Yes, they should be able to, but if for whatever reason you don't, let us know. Maybe you're a newer user and we can get you access to this.
But this is something that we really pay a lot of attention to, and Gordian reports back to me on your input on how contractors are doing. So please fill it out at the end of the project.
And last but not least, guys, this is going to be a fun little adventure that we're going to voyage on this year. But at the end of it all, there will be something that will hopefully make it worth your while. So the campus with the highest graded analysis at the end of the year is going to win the JOC, which is
It's like
Jeremy's.
an Oscar. It's like an Oscar, but it's for JOC. See what I did there?
Yeah.
Come on.
It's basically going to be a JOC Excellence Award, which campus really shined the most during this analysis. This is somebody that we're going to highlight out and say, this is what best practices was highlighted as. This is a campus that really, really showcased what best practices were. And maybe they're doing something differently from the other campuses that we can start to roll out system-wide, right? Everybody does things slightly different. And there's always new ideas being generated as to how to improve upon the program. So this will really help highlight whichever campus is that's really taking best practices to the next level. And this will be announced at the end of the year.
I thought it was a great name. So very, very much looking forward to see who the JOC is. Be very. We'll do it on our huddle in December about who gets the award. So.
Who gets the award? We'll have to come up with some award trophy for it.
Absolutely. So question and answers. I'm gonna actually change this to open discussion. I don't know if anybody was at the CMAG last week, but questions and answers is kind of like a dinosaur way to say it, but the really open discussion. We got a couple of questions here. So on the detailed scope of work, if we have drawings from an architect calling out details like finishes, manufacturers, etc., do we also need to include them typed into the detailed scope of work, or can we have them referenced in the attached drawings? Great question. So what I do on this is I type out in the detailed scope of work, please reference attached drawings, and I'll put in each sheet number. So it's clear that you better read the plans before you get into this one. Let me see.
And clearly, Jeremy, we were so excited for Sabrina's question that 3 Gordian I answered the same.
Oh, look at this. Everybody was on it. Yeah.
I was typing away and didn't even notice the question was already answered.
That's Gordian. They're giving us that full 2.33% now, which is awesome.
More bang for your buck, okay?
Yeah. Well, actually, yeah, less buck, more bang was what I love. So any other open discussions or topics about JOC you guys would like to talk about today? If something comes up afterwards, or if you're watching this video and you're like, hey, Jeremy, what about this? Don't hesitate to send me an email or ask me a question, ask Cynthia. We will get right on it. But thank you to everybody attending today. Here's a look at our upcoming training sessions coming up here at 10 a.m. Just in 20 minutes, there's going to be a commissioning, master enabling agreement, training, and vendor meet and greet. You should have already gotten an announcement for it, but I can send you the invite as well. That's going to be a great way to learn about the commissioning master enabling agreement. This is brought to you by Energy, Sustainability, and Transportation Department here at CPDC. Very cool training session there. You can also view all previous JOC Huddle, CM 101, CM at Risk, and CDB at CSU Learn or SumTotal. And thank you to everybody for attending today, and we'll see you on the next JOC Huddle.